Why do I care about Bitcoin? That's a good question. Why am I here on this beautiful evening with that sunset in the background? If I can get that, it's just gorgeous. I've been out here for a little while enjoying it, and now here I am talking about Bitcoin again. Why on earth do I put so much time into this, and why is it that Bitcoiners seem to be completely insane? Well, the answer I think is very simple. It's about people. It's about people. It's about life. It's about energy. And it's about preserving those things, or giving the highest probability that the most amount of prosperity in human lives can be saved and preserved into the future. Money is the thing at which we communicate value with one another. And for the entirety of human history, we have not had an effective way at which to do that continually over a long period of time without eventually having humans distort that, corrupt that, and steal from each other. Printing money is inherently theft. If I print pieces of paper, if I print currency, what I'm doing is I'm stealing, I'm harvesting purchasing power from someone else. Inflation is inherently theft. It's literally theft. When the United States or Europe or Japan or another majorly developed nation in the world prints money, we are stealing wealth from the rest of the world. We're stealing their natural resources. We're stealing their monetary energy. We're just stealing their purchasing power. And ultimately, people give all sorts of reasons against Bitcoin, reasons it'll fail, and this, that, the other. Oh, you need to print money every year to incentivize spending, or you need to print money every year to incentivize long-term investing and saving, or whatever. You got to balance the government's budget, blah, blah, blah. They give all these reasons. But ultimately, what it comes down to is the thesis being we have to steal from people so that we can do blah, 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 blah. And once you frame it that way, well, then you understand why people so adamantly are against Bitcoin. It's because if you can corrupt the money, if you just create an excuse and say, we have to steal from people in order to justify this, that, the other, now it makes a lot more sense why a lot of people don't like Bitcoin. And so ultimately, if we think to the founding of the country that I'm in right now, the great, beautiful United States of America, well, how was it founded? Well, it was founded because the British said we have to steal from our colonies. We have to steal from the rest of the world via monetary debasement, via colonialism, and via theft in order for the glory of the British crown. You know, we got to fund our wars. We got to fund the 7 Years' War. We got to fund India. We got to fund all these things, and we're going to steal from you. And we're going to tax you, and we're going to print money and dump it onto you in exchange for your natural resources. Eventually, the colonists said enough of this, and they overthrew the system. We said, we're done with your base set of rules monetarily, and we're done with the political system atop that monetary standard, and we're going to go our own way. We want our own country, our own nation. And if you look throughout history, revolution after revolution, falling tyranny after falling tyranny, system after system, it's all the same thing. The rules are corrupted in favor of some people at the direct expense of other people, and eventually the people have enough of it and they have a revolution, or they want to overthrow the system, reset the ledger, and start anew with an equal set of rules. And so ultimately what Bitcoin is, it is the exact same thing. People today are saying, I'm done with you stealing from me. I'm done with your informational money, your informational units being manipulated, because now we have all this misinformation, we have all this political polarization, we have all this rampant financial speculation in financial sectors, we have these massive amounts of leverage being taken out in the banking sector and other sectors that are causing all these collapses and all these... We are tired of you manipulating numbers and manipulating math in order for you to unjustifiably acquire more resources at the expense of other people. And so Bitcoin essentially is that exact kind of revolution. Except there's two key differences with this. Actually, three. The first one is that no human is in charge of it. That's the first thing that's really, really radical and radically different, because it gives rise to the other two things. The second one being that this is the first time it can happen without violence. See, with the revolution, whether the French Revolution, the American Revolution, you know, there was inevitably violence. Even if it's in the name of self-defense, even if it's in preserving your own life and preventing other human beings from coming into your home and taking your belongings, that's still violence, self-defensive violence, but that's still the case, that there is a requirement of bloodshed in order to defend your property. Except this time, now, we have computers fighting on our behalf in cyberspace. And so it's the first monetary revolution without the need of bloodshed. And that is a wonderfully, indescribably beautiful thing, because resources are misallocated so dramatically in the last 50, 60, 70 years after the Bretton Woods Agreement, after the departure from the gold standard. Resources are so misaligned that the only path forward, besides Bitcoin, is complete societal breakdown and complete collapse into violence. So that's one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin. And then the other beautiful thing about it is that once that's achieved, because, number one, nobody's in charge, and because, number two, it doesn't require the shedding of blood to preserve it, then number three, it theoretically could continue to last indefinitely. Maybe it won't. We don't know. This is an unprecedented nature, unprecedented technology. We don't know. Maybe it won't be around in 1,000 years. Maybe it won't be around in 100 years. There's no way for us to know. But that's so far in the future that we can't even begin to predict what the real threats to it are. And ultimately, as the way the world is today, and as the way the world stands now, there is currently no threat that we can think of that can destroy it. And people say, oh, of course there has to be. And that's because we're used to technologies where there has to be. But the reality is, it's been 14 years. Putin can't stop it. North Korea hasn't been able to stop it. The Chinese Communist Party hasn't been able to stop it. The United States government hasn't been able to stop it. And if you think the United States government is any different than those when the rubber will meet the road, we're not. We will have social credit scores. We will have central bank digital currencies. We will use artificial intelligence to censor, monitor, oversee, and survey all American citizens and everyone in the world. Why? Because when you have a ledger that its survival is dependent on misinformation, lies, and theft, it has to get worse. And so ultimately what that means is that Bitcoin very possibly could be the last monetary revolution of the human race. And it's definitely the largest. We've never had more people in human history, and we're only going to have more people into the coming decades and centuries, most probably. And so if this is the last monetary revolution of the human race, the stakes literally have never been higher as far as these monetary revolutions go. And so ultimately, fighting for Bitcoin and fighting for freedom and fighting against the systemic theft of every facet of society and fighting against technologies that survive as a function of human corruption perpetuating their theft, to me, that's the moral thing to do. That's the right thing to do. And the beauty is that it's a win-win. If I'm correct and if this thing is true, I will make a lot of money because a system that is without corruption, without human influence, that is, and a system that has only more value generated unto it, means that anyone that buys into that and is a part of that and operates within that system is going to make money. They're going to become rich. And likewise, that means that everyone else that participates in it is also going to do much better than they currently are in a system where we have a rate of theft of 2% a year. So ultimately, the people that buy Bitcoin should make money, or more accurately put, they should gain prosperity into the future. And ultimately, what is wealth? Wealth is the ability to enjoy things like this, making dinner inside and then coming out and enjoying the beautiful sunset here and the colors of a, nice spring day here. And anyway, that's what wealth is. Wealth is not pieces of paper. You don't create beauty, you don't create wealth by adding a bunch of zeros onto a number that you created out of thin air. And human emotion likes to forget that, because if we just tell ourselves that lie, that we can create matter out of nothing, that we can manifest value out of just imagination, well, then we can convince ourselves of anything. And ultimately, Bitcoin gets that nonsense out of the base layer of society, which is monetary energy and communication. So that's why I care. It's for the beauty like this afternoon, this evening. It's for the beauty of afternoons and evenings like this, for billions of people today and many, many more billions of people that probably are coming into the future.